Okay, hi everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Sarah Shepard. I'm the Employer Relationship Manager at Mercy College. And my goal and role is to provide you with opportunities that you can take advantage of that are related to your degree while you're still in college. And today we have some folks from the American Red Cross to talk about their internship and volunteer opportunities. So I will give them the floor.
Great, thank you very much, Sarah. So my name is Danielle Willenberg, and I am a volunteer recruitment manager with the American Red Cross of Greater New York. I've been with the organization for 4 years, and I do a lot of work with recruiting volunteers. And with me today is Pam. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Pam Mancini. I've also been with the Red Cross for 4 years. I'm our lead recruiter for the Internship Program, and I'm also a volunteer with the Red Cross.
Thanks. So thank you guys for joining us today. So during this presentation, we will briefly go over the mission of the American Red Cross, a little bit about our seasonal readiness program, as well as some other open volunteer positions, and our internship program. We will then go over the application process, and at the end, we will have an opportunity for questions, and I believe there is a chat, so if you have any questions throughout, you are welcome to write them into the chat. So the mission of the American Red Cross is to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. So we would not be able to reach the people that we do and accomplish our humanitarian mission without the assistance of volunteers. We are about 90% volunteer organization. So we really are just grateful for all of our amazing volunteers, and we hope that you guys would be interested in joining us. At the American Red Cross, we follow 7 fundamental principles. So this is really important just to get a better understanding of our organization. So our principles include humanity, impartiality, neutrality, independence, voluntary service, unity, and universality. So we are a neutral and impartial organization, and we follow all these principles because this really just helps us to meet the humanitarian need wherever it is. Our shelters after disaster are welcoming to anybody who really is in need. So this is just a really great part of the organization, and it makes me proud to be a part of it. Okay, so our region is made up of all of Long Island, so Nassau and Suffolk County, all of New York City and the 5 boroughs, as well as parts of the lower Hudson Valley, which is Westchester, Rockland, and Greenwich, Connecticut. So I believe Mercy College students are located kind of throughout this region. So no matter where you live, we would have an opportunity for you. Currently, we are still in the middle of hurricane season. So hurricane season typically runs from May to November. If you guys were in New York back in 2012, Hurricane Sandy hit on October 29th. So we are still just fully aware and fully engaged and preparing for disaster. And we're still in need of volunteers to join our seasonal readiness team. So these volunteers, we are going to go over a little bit more detail about the requirements of the position in a little bit, but this is a great opportunity for current students to get involved with the Red Cross in a time when we have a large need. So this slide is a little bit more about that position. So we have both service associate and supervisory positions available. So if you are a student who maybe has had a different management experience in the past of a potentially small team for at least 2 years, you are welcome to apply to become a supervisor with us. So both of our service associates and our supervisor positions will work in our shelters to do reception, registration, feeding, dormitory, information collection, and other vital tasks. So right now we are really looking for people to support our region here in Greater New York. But if you were potentially interested in helping out around the country, then that may be an opportunity as well. So the Red Cross looks for people who can do 2-week deployments, that we call it, and they would cover transportation, housing, and food costs. But housing may be a shelter or it could be a hotel, but you would need to be willing to travel and have the time to do so. So if there's a disaster over winter break or over the summer, this may be something to consider at that time. The requirements for this role include having excellent client service and being able to support the daily requirements of the shelter operation. So I myself had gone to support North Carolina after Hurricane Florence, and I got to go to some of the shelters there. And there are people who are just really in a difficult time in their lives because they have just left their home and they are just going through a lot of emotional turmoil. So you need to have excellent client service for this role. We also look for people with a driver's license because you may need to be able to get around our region. We do have Red Cross vehicles that we would do a driver's license check on. We are looking for people who can do up to 5 shifts during hurricane season. Granted, this is the end of hurricane season right now, so most likely, as long as you could sign up for at least a couple of shifts, which would be anywhere between 4 and 12 hours, and are 24/7 because of our shelters, then we would encourage you to apply. This is a basic requirement of 2.45 hours of online training. So it's a great way to kind of get introduced to the Red Cross and have something to boost your resume and be available for if a large disaster happens. Some other opportunities that we have that are open include a disaster action team trainee in New York City. So if you like working with clients and want a little bit more experience of doing field work and seeing the Red Cross on the ground, these individuals will be responding to disasters such as multifamily home fires. And they are kind of the first line of service to these families with giving them services and making referrals to our recovery caseworkers. We are also looking for communications volunteers. So if you have any sort of communications background or experience, if you're a good writer and have some potential writing samples, we're still looking for people to join this team. There's both behind the scenes and in the field opportunities with the communications volunteer. In addition, we have a digital volunteer role. So this is, I think, one of our best positions for students because the commitment is still fairly low. We are looking for somebody who can commit 1 week a month for about 1 hour a day to just scroll our social media and kind of assist with like answering messages or just doing various projects, managing our social media. Our Facebook account has about 70,000 followers, so we end up getting just a lot of traffic on our accounts. We are also looking for disaster workforce engagement volunteers. So if you're good with data and want to kind of do the human resources role of disaster cycle services, this may be a great role for you. And finally, we have our blood donor ambassador, but this one is specific to Westchester and Rockland County only. This would be an in-person role, and it is great for somebody who has excellent client service again, and really just wants to get involved with a very important aspect of blood collection, which really they're just going to be the greeters and the people to introduce everybody, get them checked in, and kind of give them food and snacks and water after their blood donation. So to apply, you can go to redcross.org/volunteer. You will be asked to put in your zip code, and you will be asked to potentially search for the role for the shelter associate position I mentioned. You could look for COVID-19 sheltering volunteer. You do need to put in a New York zip code to have access to these New York positions. So if you live in Jersey, you will then be referred to the New Jersey Red Cross. Once you complete your application, you will be asked to upload a photo ID and your social security number, and then you will be sent an email to sign up for a phone screening. So if you have questions, you can write them in the chat, and we will move on to our internship program with Pam Mancini and be able to answer all those at the end. So Pam?
Okay, thanks, Danielle. As Danielle said, we have volunteer positions. We have a lot of parallel positions in our internship program. Our internship program runs 3 cycles. So we run fall, spring, and summer. In fall and spring, the requirement is 10 hours a week. In the summer, it's 20 hours a week. All of our internship positions are unpaid, which has some disadvantages, but it has a couple of advantages. One is because the Red Cross is about 90% volunteer, you're really brought into a team of people. As I mentioned, I'm actually a volunteer, so our volunteers get to do quite a bit. You're actually very much part of a team. The other thing is, if it's hard for you to do an unpaid internship, remember that you can do it for college credit. So we don't grant the credits, obviously the school does, but for giving you the number of hours and the evaluations that you need, we can help with that. So that's another way that makes it a little more tenable if it's hard to do an unpaid position. You must be enrolled as an undergraduate or graduate degree student at the time. So if you're graduating in December or January, you wouldn't be eligible for our internship program. Our next cycle is starting for spring internships. That's going to start, the internships start around February 1st. Our summer internships start the beginning of January. The beginning of June. For our spring internships, I'm just listing them now. So I'll have our website at the end. If you log in tomorrow, you'll be able to see what internships we're offering for spring. I do have to say that we've switched everything to virtual right now. So the process is a bit competitive because we're getting interns from across the country. Usually fall and spring aren't as competitive. So it's a great chance if you haven't done many internships or had experiences to do that. I'd have to say it's a little more competitive now. Of course, volunteering is always a possibility. As it says here, we accept international students, but we can't act as a sponsor. And our internships would meet like general internship requirements. We can't do public health, counseling, or medical experience. So if you're looking for that, the Red Cross is actually more emergency preparedness. We're really not going to give you that hands-on medical experience because that's not really our role. We sort of come into the process after that's all taken care of. Our internships go across the areas. We have some in our disaster, as Danielle was talking about, disaster areas. She also mentioned social media and communications. We have internships in those areas too. We have internships in our fundraising group. We have internships in, as Danielle mentioned, workforce engagement, which is like our HR group. This is all listed on the website, and the exact positions for spring will be listed. And we also have some that help our support roles. And on the website, we also have information about by major, so you can look up your major and see what type of opportunities you have. As I mentioned, if you're really doing sort of nursing medical, it's not going to be as much of a match. Or if you're doing computer science or strict, if you want really accounting, with the computer science and accounting, because we have a headquarters in Washington, like those sort of functions are centralized there. In the regions, we're not doing as much of that. But I encourage you to go on to our internship website, preferably tomorrow, because you'll be able to see exactly which positions. If you're interested for summer, on the top of each application, there'll be a link that will tell you if you want to sign up for summer. You can give the contact information now, and we'll email you as soon as the summer application's open. So that's what I have, and we're open to questions.
Hey, thank you guys so much.
Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Ivy. Nice to see you here. Did
Yeah,
you have a question?
I was in.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry for getting here late. I was in a class.
Oh, that's okay. We appreciate you coming. We're just getting on to Q&A right now.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. So I did want to make a note to students on the line. To get credit for the internship, you would probably sign up for either a course 380, a 381, which are electives, or a 399, which is a major elective. You want to make sure that you land the internship before you're registering for the credit, but myself or your professor can help you with that. So I'll put my email in the chat so everyone has it. And I know we've had some good questions in here, so I will moderate and you two can take the questions as you see fit. So let's see. Tiffany said she volunteered during Hurricane Sandy, and when she signs up again, will her login information be different? It has been years.
That's a great question. So if you want to volunteer again, you can reach out to me directly to reactivate your account. It will be the same login information. If you would like to use a new email address, you would be welcome to create a new account.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Professor Zavala
I have
wants...
a question.
Okay, sure, Ivy, go ahead.
What is what kind of activities do you do?
So the different opportunities are in, well, you guys would probably speak to it better if you want to just the quick buckets. I think she missed the beginning.
Sure, I could do a quick summary. So we have both volunteer and internship opportunities. So if you're interested in volunteering, we are looking for people to join our disaster cycle services team as a shelter associate, which would be kind of an emergency roster to respond to our shelters if there is a large disaster. And that position would be responsible for reception, feeding, and setting up and taking down the dormitory. But we also have additional positions available on our website at www.redcross.org/volunteer, or I could speak to you after if you had more specific questions.
Yeah, speak to me. Can you jot down your email?
My email is in the chat. It's danielle.wollenberg@redcross.org.
Yep, you just have to scroll through it a little bit, Ivy. It's in there. Okay, from Professor Zavala, do you offer crisis training, i.e. how they should communicate and what to consider when helping individuals who have gone through a crisis like a hurricane?
Yes, so we do have trainings available in our online platform called like psychological first aid. So that class also has opportunities to go in person. However, in the current climate, everybody's kind of just been taking it online because they can take it whenever they would like. So that is like our main course that we have everybody complete who works in one of our shelters.
Great, thank you.
As Danielle said, that is across the board. I'm also a volunteer in mass care, and that's one that everyone takes. And I think it's about a 1 or 2 hour class. It's not that long, but it's really good, and it gives you the confidence for how you would speak with people.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be helpful in just daily life, just to have that training. Okay, Jay Pearson, what about physical therapy? Would it count towards internship credits? My guess is the requirements for physical therapy are very specific, where you have to shadow a physical therapist. So my guess is no. Do you know anything different, Pam or Danielle?
Yeah, I would have to say on our end, that's exactly right, because you're not interacting with clients, you're not touching anyone or anything like that. So we're really not a match for that type of very specific medical hands-on training. And
usually your faculty will work with you when you have those requirements for your degree. You can work with your faculty on getting those hours. So hopefully you can get some help from them. Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Does anybody have questions? I have a few if no one else does. Okay. What is the deadline to apply for the spring internships, if any?
For the spring internships, we go to January, I believe it's 4th or 5th. It'll say early, just after the 1st of January, but we fill on a rolling basis.
Mm-hmm.
So if a manager, finds someone, then the position fills, and then we pull it offline. You can see all of the different positions listed now, and we'll have it. Ours, again, is a 2-step process. So you would fill out the application. If you're found to be best qualified, I'm the lead screener. I have a few other screeners who work with me. We screen through the applications. We find people that have the best potential to be a fit. We set up a brief 20-minute phone screening with you to talk a little bit more about your interest. If we think and you think there's still a match, we forward your application to the manager. The manager sets up a phone screening and then makes the final selection. So it is, as I said, somewhat of a competitive process. We wish we could have everyone come in as an intern. Certainly volunteering is wide open, and you have a lot of choices for what you want to do.
Great, thank you. And if a student is volunteering and they wanted to kind of turn it into an internship for credit, because it doesn't have to have that title, would you be able to provide, say, 10 hours a week for a student to be able to ensure that they could get credit for a volunteer if they don't get the internship?
I thought Danielle would have to do that. I mean, I suppose it depends on your requirements and how the volunteering is set up. Our internship program is actually a full program. So we have lunch and learn sessions, which the volunteers can do too, which are now dine and discuss. So we'll have sessions with the other managers so you can learn about different programs. We also just implemented a cohort model. So if you're an intern, you're grouped with a smaller group of interns so you can get to know people, particularly in this virtual environment. So our internship program is a full program. If you're just looking for hours, Danielle, I guess it would depend, because there is a, you can't just usually volunteer for one semester. It's a longer time commitment.
Okay.
If you want to speak about that, Danielle.
Yeah, so typically our volunteer opportunities, most of them are 6 months to a year, except for our seasonal readiness position, which is strictly short term. So that is a great question. I guess we would have to work closely with the school just to figure out what the requirements would be. And then I would need to kind of double check with Stephen on our side. I think that if people want to volunteer, that's great. And if that can also give them opportunities, I wouldn't see a problem with that, but I'm not sure. Stephen, it looks like you're on. Do you know?
Hi. So I think the question was, somebody was asking whether they can have 10 hours of volunteer work for a specified period. Is that correct?
Yeah, and perhaps it's because students are interested in the volunteer opportunities, but also want to try and get credit for it. But maybe they agree to do the 6 months, but during 3 of those months, perhaps they're earning academic credit. So it was just an thought, if they could be kind of guaranteed 10 hours a week so they could earn the hours that they need.
That's a great question. And unfortunately, no hours are guaranteed. Volunteer work in general is not guaranteed, hence the word volunteer, right? People can come and go. Many of our positions do have requirements, weekly requirements or monthly requirements. However, those aren't solid firm requirements in terms of you checking in and checking out. And it also depends on the amount of work on any given period and whether any particular period has increased volume or the volunteer manager is available or not. So things do fluctuate in the volunteer world. So there really can't be a possibility where we can guarantee you X number of hours. We can, though, provide hours verification. So if you want to come in and volunteer and you need a verification of the number of hours that you performed, we can provide a very simple verification. It is in the internship program where we can establish a time, but even in that program, even if we say it's 10 weeks or 12 or 10 hours or 15 hours or whatever it is, it may vary. You may intern 5 hours one week, 16 hours next week. It depends. It depends on the workflow and your project. I hope that's able to answer your questions.
Yes, very well. Thank you. That's a great answer. Just thinking of different ways students can get involved at your organization.
Sure.
Let's see, we had another question in the chat. New York region was mentioned. Does this mean New York City? I believe the answer is yes, but I'll let you answer that.
Yep. So the New York region includes New York City and the 5 boroughs, Long Island, and parts of the lower Hudson Valley. So some of our positions, we would ask to be flexible to kind of work potentially throughout the region, but we also have specific chapter offices. So we have an office in New York City in Hell's Kitchen at 49th and 10th, in Mineola on Long Island, and Hawthorne, New York, as well as Greenwich, Connecticut.
Great, thank you. And sorry, I see you answered that in the chat.
No worries.
Okay, I had one more question. I know that the internships vary, but I was hoping you could, paint a picture in the day of in any given day, given the remote work, what that looks like.
It really depends, I have to say, on the internship, because it's not in one area, it's across the board. So if you're interning with our communications or social media group, you might be helping draft a press release or drafting something that would go on one of our social media sites, or contacting media organizations to update the media list. If you're in our group that deals with educating others, even in this virtual environment, there's going to be, we have a couple internships in preparedness. So you might be doing like a Zoom type of presentation to a community group, reaching out to community groups to establish connections and set those up. In fact, Danielle is looking for an intern. So you might be helping her in this type of situation, reaching out to schools, maybe helping with some presentations, answering student questions. So it really depends across the board, but I do have to say that, as I mentioned, we work in teams and you're an integral part of the Red Cross mission. There will be some administrative projects you would help with, but during the semester, we want you to sort of complete a project or do something that you can point to that you finished during that cycle. So it is a great opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's very helpful. Does anyone else have questions? You can unmute or type it in the chat. Okay, I think that's a no. Well, thank you everyone so much for being here. Thank you to the American Red Cross for providing us with this awesome information. And I hope everyone applies for volunteer opportunities today and internships tomorrow, because that's when they'll be live. And you can always reach out to me. I think I put my email in the chat. I'll do it again. If you have any questions with your resume or how to apply or anything like that. And I guess thank you guys and have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys for having us.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.